The workforce is a human experience that almost every human is familiar with. The employed rate has increased and diversified in ways we thought could never happen, especially in 2022. But with a new and different version of the workplace, old habits are still apparent.
So my name is Loretta Grissom. I work in sales at the Atlanta Botanical Garden. It's a nonprofit organization here in Atlanta. And so I sell event spaces, and I also work in food and beverage. So I do a little bit of both.
How do you identify?
Um, oh gosh, I think that's such a loaded question, but I would say, of course, I identify as a cis woman, but I'm also African American, and so that in the corporate world is a peel all in itself. But those I would identify as those two.
My name is Antonio Grissom. I identify as he, him, and I am a professional school counselor in the public school system.
Okay. And what would you say, with your identification, how that helped or harmed you in your job that you have now or any previous job that you had?
I think so. In the job that I have now, it's a blend of nonprofit and corporate. So you have some amazing nonprofit work that's going in, but it's still political. Um, and I've also worked in positions where my color uh, both worked for me and against me. And I will say that because my color is what got me the position. But it was very clear that I was the only chocolate chip cookie in the world of sugar cookies, as I would say. And so um, being the only person that looks like you on the team, sometimes the only person that looks like you as far as your color and your gender, um, makes you have to really stand on your own. You have to really know your job and know what the requirements are and then deliver that. And what I found as a woman and as an African American woman is that I've had to work twice as hard just to prove that it was that I could do the job. And in some cases, it wasn't necessarily appreciated until I just had to transition. But that's what I found in the industries that I've been in.
Interesting. I would probably say, in the current role as a professional school counselor and being a black male in that particular field, I think it has helped in many ways, particularly in a field where there aren't a lot of male counselors, period. But when you look into K-12 education, teachers or counselors, you don't see a lot of black males in the school counselor role. So I think that is something that has helped my career within the school counseling field.
Do you have any feedback on how identifying as a black cis woman should be fixed or could be helped in the workplace?
I think that I believe that I don't think that there's anything that we can do for us to be helped because we're not a cause. It's not oh, we have to help the woman in the workplace. I think that across the board, we just want equality. We want to be treated the same. We want to be heard. I know that there's a new thing now that's called mansplaining. We don't need any of that. We just need to be able to do our job, and we need for you to understand that we know how to do our job and then allow us to deliver. And so I think that if we just have equality, that if we set the standard and that we all live up to that standard or either exceed it, then I think that that's the best way to go instead of trying to make or fix something. I think that we just have to create a level playing field for everyone to be able to work and to be able to produce.
I think when we talk about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, particularly within K-12 education, I think that is something that has to be dealt with intention, with purpose, on purpose, because I really think that it reflects the society in which we live. And so, as I said in the last question, there's not a lot of I would even venture to say a lack of Black male school counselors. And in order for that to happen, I think there has to be some very deliberate intentionality from school systems, from those K-12 public school systems, to go into various master level school counseling programs to either recruit or to provide the resources or the funding specifically for minorities or Black males to be able to go into that field, and then hire them in the field, and making sure that they have what they need on the professional development level to be able to continue in a field that's really much needed.
Any advice that you would give to a person in your shoes, in your identification?
Know who you are. Know who you are, and don't allow anyone or anything to shake your confidence. You are where you are because that is where you're supposed to be at that time. And so if, I'm a firm believer, and I know that we're not supposed to talk about God, but that's how I am. I'm just a firm believer that you are where you're supposed to be, and that if God has allowed you to be there, then you got to walk in it. Have a boldness about yourself that you know what you're doing and you deliver every single time. Walk in it.
Any advice that you would give to someone who identifies just like you?
Keep the faith. Work hard, because definitely hard work pays off. Stay focused, and it is what you're doing, particularly within the school counseling field. It can become cumbersome in many ways, but if you are dedicated and committed to the work and making an impact in the lives of young people, I think in the end it will pay off, and the benefits of that will be greater than you've ever expected.
The workplace is a tricky thing to navigate, especially for younger people who want to express themselves at all times. I have here a couple of perspectives from peers. Africana Studies Morehouse student, future Black history professor, says Black teachers are undermined and underrepresented in non-Black majority schools. College information tech student, future website creator, says not enough women are in her field. As we can see, the workplace is growing and changing in so many different ways, but there is still much change to come. Wage and pay have been a never-ending battle for decades, many resulting in homelessness and poverty. And in some cases, those people weren't even jobless. Have you ever had to work twice as hard to make ends meet due to rent, children, or marriage, or just overall living expenses?
Absolutely. I was blessed to become a mother at the age of 21. Actually, no, the day before my 21st birthday. I know that story. And so being a working mother comes with its own sets of responsibilities. And so while, you may not have to, you may be working, but there's not an option when you're a mother. You must work because you have to be able to pay childcare. You have to be able to, buy clothes. You have to be able to buy food. And so for me, I found that, having to work those double shifts or having to work the overnight shifts because those shifts paid more. Those are some of the things that I found just that went along with the joys of being a mom.
I feel that way sometimes, but I am fortunate to have a job that is salaried, that helps meet the needs of family, of mortgage, of car notes or school tuition, etc. Could it be better? Yes, for the amount of work that educators are having to do, particularly pre-COVID, during COVID, and now after COVID, because I would definitively say that educators, particularly in the past few years, are frontline workers, having a mandate on them to have to be in a building to be able to teach, to be able to support students during a very trying time within our country or within our world with COVID. And so, the benefits, again, grateful for the ones that we have, but definitely could be, I think definitely salaries and monies could be greater based on the amount of work that we are doing on a daily basis, not only shaping the lives of young people for what they're doing now, but years down the road, because those are going to be the future doctors, lawyers, teachers. Those are going to be the ones that's going to take care, of us sooner than later.
Oh, how do you think an increase in your wage at that time could have helped you?
Oh gosh. Oh, maybe I wouldn't have had to work so much. I know I was thinking about that. Actually, this week, a lot of time that I wasn't able to spend with my daughter, as she was little, because I was working, I was working, overnight, and then I would have to work during the day. And thank goodness for my mother, who would, take her to school, or, sometimes have to pick her up. Because I remember there were times where I would work so long that there was a time where the daycare knew that I worked overnight, but they also knew that I worked long hours, and they called and they said, "Hey, are you asleep? Oh God, I'm on my way." Thank goodness it was like 10 minutes down the street. But yeah, just an increased wage would have allowed me to spend more time with her and to not have to work so many hours.
Any increase can help, because I think we would look at where we are in a period of inflation within our society, or going through what they're saying the next recession, because of groceries are higher, gas is higher, just your basic commodities that you live with day in and day out is higher. And so a lot of times the monies that we receive from our jobs have not increased to kind of meet that inflation that is happening. And so as a result, many individuals are trying to determine, what is higher need, and what is can be paid now, can be paid later. Some are going without, because again, necessities that, things that you need, you're going to have to buy them, but they're higher prices. But your money that's coming in, it has not changed. And so any increase, I truly believe, will help, just to really go towards the basic necessities of everyday living that we encounter.
I think that it's so important that we're in a place now where wages are being increased, because people can't live off of $7.75. People can't live off of $9.50. They have to be able to live. The average, rent is, oh God, like $15 or $16 or $1,700, and those are just for studio apartments. So I know I went too far, but go ahead.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Speaking of that, you kind of helped me into
I'm
my next
sorry.
question.
Okay.
No, please. The current minimum wage in Georgia is $5.15, with the minimum federal wage $7.25, while the average cost of living is $38,165 a year. With that in mind, do you think that the minimum wage should be raised to match the cost of living, or maybe even higher?
Absolutely, it should be raised. I mean, if you think about the fact that I wish I could pull up a calculator right now, just so we could do just some quick numbers of what that works out to. But if you just go, I'm sorry, this is just how I am, and I promise you I'm going to keep talking while I'm doing this. But if you said it was $5 and what now?
$5.15.
$5.15. And let's just say the person works 40 hours a week. They've only made $206 for the week. That means they've made $412 every 2 weeks. That means that $412, and let's say we're doing that per month, so $412, they make $824 for the month. We just said that the average cost of an average apartment is about $1,500. I'll wait. That's it. I mean, if you look at that, just based on that alone. Now, this is just where you live. We haven't added in the bills that you have to pay there, your gas bill, your electric bill, your phone bill, if you have water, if it's not included, trash, if it's not included, gas that you have to put in your car, which goes up from, $3.50 to over $4. We haven't added in any of that, and we're still only at $824 for the month. So, to tie that into the questions that you've asked, how can you not work more? You have to. How can you not have two jobs? You have to. How can you and people in higher places of government not see that you need to raise more than, $7, more than $9, more than $13. How about let's start at 19? How about that and go from there?
The current minimum wage in Georgia is $5.15, with the minimum federal wage $7.25, while the average cost of living is $38,165 a year. With that in mind, do you think the minimum wage should be raised to match the cost of living or maybe even higher?
It's a crime that minimum wage and federal wage is that low. And I think I can speak particularly to the cost of living just in metropolitan Atlanta alone. Having the state minimum wage where it is, or the federal minimum wage where it is, we have individuals still living in poverty. We still have individuals living on having the need to have government or federal assistance just to be able to make ends meet day in and day out. So I think it is incumbent that, whether we are advocating and we're writing our congresspersons, that we should have a living wage that meets the cost of living in these areas. I don't understand how individuals, particularly those with families, are able to survive on minimum wage or a federal wage where it is being considering transportation costs, considering food costs, medical costs, etc., how you're able to have benefits for your family. It's just a whole lot that really goes into that. And so my heart really goes out to individuals who are trying to make it, but the minimum wage is not really at a place where it will allow them to live and to live comfortably, and to be able to save. Because I think a lot of times, with the living, with a minimum wage being where it is, it doesn't allow individuals to be able to save for the future. And hopefully a living wage will be able to give them a little bit more to be able to do that. But in order to really handle the business that they need to do with those funds. But the way it is right now is really sad, and my heart really goes out to those individuals.
There are at least 1.25 million Americans who earn less than or equal to the federal minimum wage. 44% of all U.S. workers with earnings at or equal to minimum wage are under 25. With 7.837 billion people in the world, there have been multiple things done to increase minimum wage. Protests, walkouts, petitions, and in the very best cases, companies provide an increased wage. As you can see, there has been many perspectives provided, feedback shared, and something new learned. The workplace is always growing and expanding, and there are so many new things in place. We've seen many struggles in the workplace, wages and lack of diversity. So what can we do to help? Go share your ideas and perspectives with the people with the platform to help. Governors, state officials, go vote. Go to town and state meetings. We can't wait for power to be handed or for someone else to change it for us. The first steps toward change start with yours.